Hey everyone, and welcome back to G Fun Facts Online. I am your host, and today we're uncorking a topic that's literally as old as civilization itself, the amazing, transformative art of fermentation. We're talking about how simple ingredients get turned into delicious foods and drinks, from your morning sourdough to that celebratory beer. But here's the kicker. Scientists are now using cutting-edge tech to uncover lost fermentation secrets from thousands of years ago, basically tasting the past. So grab your thinking caps, because we're diving into the world of ancient microbes and the birth of brewing and baking. So how do we peek into these ancient kitchens and breweries? This is where a super cool field called Archaeomicrobiology comes in. It's like CSI meets ancient history. But instead of crime scenes, scientists are investigating old pots, tools, and even ancient tooth plaque. They're hunting for microscopic clues, the yeasts, bacteria, and molds our ancestors used, sometimes without even knowing it. They use some seriously smart tools. Imagine chemical analysis, like super-sensitive sniffers called gas or liquid chromatography mass spectrometry, that can pick up faint traces of fats, proteins, or telltale signs of fermentation, like tartaric acid, which screams wine. They also look under powerful microscopes for actual remnants of tiny starch grains, or even the preserved cells of yeast. And the real game changer? Ancient DNA analysis. Scientists can actually sequence the genes of these ancient microbes, figuring out exactly what species they were and how they relate to the microbes we use today. It's mind-blowing stuff. All right, let's get to the part many of you have been waiting for, the ancient booze. Turns out, our ancestors loved a good fermented beverage, and these drinks were often central to social life, religion, and even medicine. Our boozy journey starts way back, around 7000 BCE in Jiahu, China. Archaeologists found pottery with residues of a mixed fermented drink made from rice, honey, and fruit like hawthorn or grapes. Talk about an ancient cocktail. Later on, still in Neolithic China, they developed at least 2 different ways to make alcohol, using cereal malts or even moldy grains and herbs, a kind of early version of starters still used today. They were fermenting millet, rice, jobs tares, beans, and all sorts of roots and herbs like ginger. This really pushes back the timeline for sophisticated brewing. Now, let's hop over to ancient Egypt. The Egyptians were legendary brewers and bakers, and yeast was their magic ingredient. We've found grinding stones, baking ovens, and even pictures of breweries dating back over 4,000 years. They'd find something called beer stone, a brewing byproduct, on old pottery. Their beer was probably a bit wild and unpredictable compared to ours, made by spontaneous fermentation, but it was a staple food and even used to pay workers. Heading to the Mediterranean, the Caucasus region, especially Georgia, is often called the birthplace of wine, with evidence going back to 6000 BCE. Scientists look for tartaric acid in ancient pots to confirm grape wine. And it wasn't just grapes. Honey was everywhere, so mead, or honey wine, was also a big deal. We've found evidence of mead, including yeast and pollen, in drinking horns from Germany to the tomb of King Midas in Turkey around 700 BCE. Even in Neolithic Britain, about 4,500 years ago, people were making ales from cereals and possibly mead from honey. They found these huge pots at ceremonial sites like Durrington Walls, some holding up to 8 gallons, which they think were fermentation tanks. And get this, residues from a site in Scotland showed they used meadowsweet to flavor their ale, way before hops became the standard. But hey, fermentation wasn't just about making ancient party drinks. It was a super important way to preserve food, make it more nutritious, and create amazing new flavors and textures. Think about dairy. Long before the first pint of ale, humans were likely fermenting milk. As far back as 10,000 BCE, milk from camels, goats, and sheep probably fermented naturally in warm weather. Some Neolithic pottery strainers are thought to be early cheese-making tools, separating curds from whey. Since many early humans were lactose intolerant, fermented milk products like yogurt and cheese, which have less lactose, would have been easier to digest. And what about bread? The leavening of bread with yeast is an ancient art. Before commercial yeast packets, bakers used wild yeasts captured in a sourdough starter, that bubbling mix of yeast and bacteria that gives sourdough its unique taste and helps it last longer. Across the globe, people got creative with fermenting grains and vegetables. In China, they've been using takar as a special fungal starter for centuries to make things like miso and soy sauce from soybeans. In Scandinavia, Neolithic farmers weren't just eating cereals. They processed wild plants into gruels that could have been fermented. And let's not forget the Romans and their famous garum, a super pungent fermented fish sauce. Clearly, our ancestors knew how to get funky with their food. So who were these tiny, invisible chefs doing all this amazing work? Ancient people relied on wild yeasts and bacteria found in the environment, on fruit skins, or in the grains themselves. Over time, by reusing sediments from good batches, a technique called backslopping, they unknowingly started domesticating these microbes, selecting for strains that worked best. It's like they were tiny microbe farmers. Some incredible recent research has even managed to isolate live yeast cells from ancient clay vessels. Imagine recreating ancient beers or wines using the original microbes. By studying the DNA of these ancient strains, scientists can figure out if they were, say, more alcohol tolerant or produced different flavors than modern industrial yeasts. It's a direct taste of the past. Now, for the really exciting part, can we actually recreate these ancient foods and drinks? It's a huge challenge. Ancient recipes, if they even existed, were super vague. The exact ingredients, amounts, temperatures, and those specific microbial communities are often big question marks. But archaeomicrobiology gives us vital clues. Finding certain starch granules tells us about the grains, and pollen analysis can reveal fruits or herbs used for flavor. And thankfully, there have been some amazing successes. Dr. Patrick McGovern, a pioneer in this field, has teamed up with breweries to bring ancient beverages back to life based on his residue analyses. Think of Chateau Jiahu, based on that Neolithic Chinese brew, or Midas Touch, inspired by what was found in King Midas' tomb. These projects don't just make cool drinks, they get everyone excited about ancient history and the science behind it. So what's next for this fascinating field of archaeomicrobiology? It's evolving super fast. As techniques for analyzing ancient DNA get even better, well, get more detailed pictures of ancient microbial communities. Not just the main fermenters, but all the supporting microbes that added complexity. Scientists are also expanding their search beyond pottery, looking at things like dental calculus, that's ancient plaque, fossilized poop, yes really, it's called coprolites, and even preserved food itself. Plus, there's more experimental archaeology, like researchers cooking in replica ancient pots to better understand how residues form, which helps interpret actual archaeological finds. And here's something really relevant for us today. Studying ancient fermented foods might even hold lessons for modern health. Many traditional fermented foods are packed with probiotics. Understanding their historical role could help us with gut health and nutrition now. So, from millennia-old Chinese proto-brews and Egyptian sourdoughs, to the potential for rediscovering ancient probiotics that could benefit us today, archaeomicrobiology is literally unearthing an incredible, edible history. It shows us the ingenuity of our ancestors, their deep connection with the natural world, and the timeless human fascination with the magic of fermentation. It's a reminder that even the smallest invisible organisms have played a massive role in shaping our world and our dinner plates. That's all the time we have for this episode of G Fun Facts Online. Thanks for tuning in, keep exploring, and stay curious.